Hello, so today we are going to do this problem from Daily Leetcode Challenge, majority element. So basically we have an array of size n and we want to return the majority element. And majority element here basically is an element that appears more than a half of the array size. So basically, if let's say we have an array size of 4, then half is 2. So the majority element needs to occur more than 2 times. So for example, if it occurs 3 times and there is one other element, then that's the majority element. And sort of implied here is that it exists. There is a majority element in the array. So we don't need to worry about not finding it. So what is the easiest way to do this? Well, the easiest way is to just count the occurrences of each number, right? So for example, in this case, we'll find that 3 occurs twice and then 2 occurs once. And so the majority element, since the length of the array is 3, so the floor of the half of the array is actually 1, the floor. So because it's 1.5, we take the floor, so it's 1. So 2 is bigger than the floor of n divided by 2, so we return 3 because that's the element that occurred 2 times. So that's the idea. So we can just count the number of occurrences. So in Python, you can easily do that with collections counter. If you are in another language, you can use just a simple map. So in this case, we'll just use a counter, and then we'll just go through the counts. So for the number and the count in occurrence.count, in occurrence, the elements in this here, this basically will give us the number and the count. Now, if the count is bigger than n divided by 2, so this basically in Python will give you the floor. You could also do something like floor n divided by 2, but it's just easier to do it this way, so I'll just do it like this. Now we need to define n, which will be just the length of the array. Now, that means the majority element is basically this number, because literally we just applied the definition. Okay, so if we run this, looks good, we submit, it gets accepted. Now let's say you are in a language that doesn't have counter. You could still use a map. So either you could use it like this and check if the element is in the map. If it's not, you initialize it by 0. But in Python, just to make it easier, we can just by default initialize all of them to 0. And now we can just go through the array and we can increment the occurrence of the number by 1 each time we encounter it, right? But in this case, as soon as the occurrence is bigger than, we don't need to continue. As soon as we find that it's bigger, even if it's higher than that, we already know that it's the majority element, so we can just return it. So this should work as well. This accepted. If we submit, it does get accepted. Okay. Now, one other thing we can do actually, which is, so this is, in terms of time complexity, this is O of n time, but also O of n space. Okay, so another way actually to think about solving this is, if you think about just the majority element, like just literally the definition of that element is that because it's more than half, right? Then by definition, what will happen is that the middle element would be that majority element. Why? Because let's, for example, take the first example. So with this one here, if we sort it, then the middle element would be the majority, because by definition, it will take up either the first half or the last half, and then take one more place at least, because it has to be more than half, right? And so with this idea, basically, we can actually solve it using sorting without extra space. Of course, that will increase the time complexity, but at least that will save us on space. So how do we do that? Then we can basically just take the middle element, right? Because we know, because it's the majority element, it will, like here, because it's the greater element, it took the first half. Even if you had 3 here, right? It took the majority of the second half, but including including the middle, right? You can try different variations. You will find that that's the case, right? Or it's the smaller element. So let's say, for example, here maybe instead we had 1 here. So 1 is the majority element. Now in that case, we'd have 1 here and then 1 here, right? Now you may say, okay, what if basically 1 is for just 1 time different than 2, and maybe you had 3 here, okay? So 1 in this case would be 4. We have 4 here. Um, and we have 3 twos, and we have 3. But this is not correct, because the problem says the majority element has to be more than half. And so this array size, if we take this array, let's say like this, the array size is 4 here and 4 here, so 8. So by definition, 1 has to be at least 5. And so we have to have at least 5. And so again, you will see the middle element will be 1, right? And so no matter how you slice it, either it will take the majority of it will take the first half or the second half, just by definition. And so whether it takes the first half or the second half, the middle element would be the majority element. So okay, so we take just the middle element. Let's run it. And let's submit. And that gets accepted. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this problem. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.